forward to hearing from the amazing speakers and panelists here to share their knowledge and experience so that as a community, a campus of community, a region, a group of friends, as people, we can help each other and make a difference. I'm just so excited to hear from each and every one of you, and I will not take up any more of your time other than to thank you for being here today and for what is sure to be an inspirational, informative, and empowering event. Once again, thank you and welcome to Mitchell College.
Thank you so much. I'll just give you the order of the program and then we'll follow that direction. Next we'll have greetings and proclamations by our mayor of New London, Michael Pasro. And then followed by that, we'll have open remarks by our Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families, Vanessa Dorantes, and then we'll have a Deputy Commissioner of Corrections, Sharonda Carlos, in that order, please.
Thank you so much, Brother Winston Taylor, and thank you for this very, very important work that you do in this annual event. I'm happy to be here every year and to welcome you on behalf of the City of New London. And I just want to point out that our Director of Human Services is here, Jeannie Milstein. She's one of our rock stars working in the trenches in this area in New London, certainly doing great work.
Good work, yeah, absolutely.
And welcome to the two commissioners that are here. We're honored, very, very honored to have you here. Certainly elevate this event to another level, and we so much appreciate your help on everything. As you know, we are a major support center for the reentry community, and we're very, very proud of that. We're proud of the services that our partners in this city provide to the reentry community. And we thank Commissioner Dorantes for targeting New London and helping us establish the Early Crisis Center with the Child and Family Agency. So important. We think that that's going to be absolutely transformative in this city as we deal with the mental health issues of our young every day. So I want to thank you. I won't take up too much more time, but annually I love to give Brother Taylor a citation and certificate of appreciation for his work in the prison ministry of Shiloh Baptist Church. So it reads, the City of New London extends its gratitude to Shiloh Baptist Church prison ministry for hosting its 13th annual Community Prison Awareness and Prevention Gathering, and for the guidance and support it has made available to our community for more than 13 years. The counseling you provide to our residents who are transitioning from the criminal justice system to our community is invaluable. Our city thanks you for your commitment to teaching our people how to build their lives upon a foundation of integrity and self-sufficiency. We commend you for your outstanding community service and extend our heartfelt thanks and deep appreciation for your community spirit. Thank you, brother.
I'm Vanessa Dorantes, the Commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Children and Families, and I'm very grateful to be able to be invited down to the New London community once again this year to celebrate and lift up the awareness of children's mental health. To make sure we kind of level set with how important this conversation is, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the Children's Hospital Association of America jointly issued an emergency declaration related to child and adolescent mental health, elevating the importance of us all as community members leaning in to the mental and physical health of all of our children. We know that the pandemic has changed the way we cope with things. As adults, we struggle to know what was coming around the corner, and many of our children were taking their cues from us and have been rendered unstable, isolated, and disconnected. As we kind of climb out of the aftermath of the pandemic, we want to make sure that our children and youth emerge stronger and more resilient to be able to take on the next challenges in their lives. So it's really important that we continue to elevate and lift up those resources that are available in communities. One of the things Mayor Passero just talked about was a recent endeavor that you know that the governor and the legislature, along with the municipalities over the last 2 years, have invested a considerable amount of resources into children's mental health. And one of those here in the New London community is an urgent crisis center. So if you think of an urgent care center that you might go to if you were playing a pickup game of softball and you tweaked your ankle, you would run to an urgent care center as opposed to an emergency room because you could be seen relatively quickly by somebody who knew how to address that ankle injury. Well, an urgent crisis center is the same for children's mental health. We often heard from parents who said, you know, my child is dysregulated or just not themselves, but sitting in an emergency room for 8, 9, 10 hours made it worse. And so what we decided is that for communities across Connecticut, we're going to test this theory that if we put locally based urgent crisis centers in communities that parents and their children can go to, they could be seen quicker and they could be seen by staff who are used to working with kids, and make sure that there is a handoff to community-based services that can follow that family beyond the crisis. And what we've seen so far is that the 4 agencies across the state, Child and Family Agency here in New London, Yale in New Haven, Wellmore in Waterbury, and then the 4th is the Village in Hartford. They are already seeing a steady stream of children and families who have all, at the first evaluations that we've received, felt that their needs were met, their child's psychiatric or behavioral health crisis seemed to be subsided, and they've been connected to community services. So that's just one way that we can think about a community leaning in to support its children. The other way is emergency mobile psych. If you dial 211, anytime, day or night. One of the things that we elevated over the pandemic was 24/7 statewide access to emergency mobile psych. So that's just 211 if there's a concern and you'd like a clinician to reach out and determine whether or not they can come out and address those needs. And finally, our school system has elevated behavioral health concerns within the school and making sure that our schools have the resources available to connect kids and families, because we know many children go to school and that's where they find their solace and their help. The last thing I will say is that even though we have seen an elevation of suicidal ideation and those kind of internalized behavioral health concerns with kids, I also want you to recognize that the next time you hear of a teenager's behavior of aggression towards themselves or other people, before we cast them aside or start talking about locking them up, I'd like us to also think about that as a manifestation of trauma too. Internalized behaviors are one thing. Externalized behaviors also need our support. And so when we think about children and their brain development, not all kids respond the same way, not all kids express themselves the same way, and not all kids know how to express themselves. So as the adults around them, we have to make sure that our community is solid with resources available to them and grace when they express themselves in ways that they just try, and they try to get our attention. So thank you for hosting this forum. Thank you for inviting us, and please know that the Connecticut Department of Children and Families is here for any of your community needs.
Thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Saturday, Commissioner Durantes. It's so good to see you. Sharonda Carlos, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Correction. Thank you, Minister Winston Taylor, and to the prison ministry, Shiloh Prison Ministry, for inviting the Department of Correction. Commissioner Angel Carroll could not be here, but I did tell him that is why you prepare your leaders and put them in leadership roles. So thank you for the last 13 years and just for the role that this ministry plays within the Department of Correction. And as we know, an individual is mind, body, and soul, and they are spirit. So thank you all for all that you are doing. I'm going to go quickly because I want to stay within the time and I want to be invited back. So one of the things, because you know church folks, we can talk, and it's so good to be home. And President Epsy, thank you. I did my undergraduate here at Mitchell College. I came back and with the partnership that they have with the University of New Haven, did my graduate studies here, and then came back one more time as an adjunct professor. So it is always a blessing to be here at Mitchell. So thank you for your words as well. So in regards to the Department of Correction, what we were asked to talk about a little bit was our reentry efforts. So do know approximately 9,000 citizens discharged from the Department of Corrections each year. In 2023, in July alone, we discharged 803 individuals back into the community. So that equals individuals that came to their end of sentence or individuals that were released by some form of community release. So I'm going to talk a little bit briefly, I'll keep it brief, about our reentry units and some of our efforts as you asked. See, when you stand there, that keeps me aligned. You know how somebody stands there to make sure you don't say too much? Thank you. So some of the things that since the last time we have been here, the Department of Corrections, just what we've done, we put one reentry counselor into our correctional facility, so that was different. They were covering multiple facilities, but now we have one in each facility to include our jails. Their focus is on identification procurement. So how can we get a job? How can we get housing if we don't have proper identification? So that includes Social Security cards, that includes license, that includes non-license identification. So we do have an MOU with the Department of Motor Vehicles and also with Vital Records, and we also work with state and town clerks. We also work with the reentry welcome centers. You have one here in Connecticut. We also do the inward reach. We're coordinating transportation, so that way folks are not just being dropped off and walking around the community, but they have a place to go and also have a way to get there. I'm moving quickly, I see you, sir. Also, really quick, we're working with Pathway Homes. We're also working with the American Job Centers and also the workplace as well. Internally, we're working on some things that we're excited about in regards to the CDL eligibility. That is from Public Act 22-10. So we're working with Concentra, we're working again with DMV and some of our sister agencies in regards to individuals that can receive their CDL license. We also have House Bill 6875 that we are working on as well, and we talked about that a little bit in regards to the DMV and the ID. That has been an issue, and that is something that we are addressing. We're a part of the Fatherhood Initiative, Domains 1 and 4. We're also in collaboration with the Governor's Workforce Council and also the Juvenile Justice Policy and Oversight Subcommittee as it pertains to incarceration. So for those individuals that are leaving out that may have medical, mental health, and addiction treatment needs, we're also working internally and externally to make sure there's a warm handoff, making sure there's healthcare referrals, prescription and medication, access to recovery coaches. We hired 7 recovery coaches, so that way we can have that inward reach, making sure there's appointments, so that way they know where they can go. As some of you know, we also work with Court Support Services Division and also our parole officers. So what does this mean? When we talk about housing, making sure there's transitional supervision, halfway houses, discretionary homes for them to go to, DUI confinement homes for them to go to, and some maybe even nursing homes that they may go to. So in closing, and thank you for the time, so in addition to the coordinated efforts that we are trying to do inside pertaining to our reentry counselors and our discharge planners, what we also recognize is that an individual themselves must have the desire to want to change, to break the vicious cycle of imprisonment and incarceration. And so one of the things that, just very briefly, that we talk about and we try to instill in them is hope. And when we define hope, hope is the feeling that what is wanted or what is desired, it can be attained, it can be had. And so as we talk about that, as we talk about such ministries as the Shiloh Prison Ministry, thank you for the hope that you are giving those that are within the Department of Correction at this time. And thank you for being an anchor in the community for them to come back home to. So thank you for your time on this morning.
The reason why we have everybody to come here from various agencies and businesses and students, you see the interconnectedness of all of these communities coming together. It's all of our responsibility, so that's why we've been doing the Prison Awareness Prevention Gathering. It's like a piece of the pie that all of the, from politics, from education, from agencies, heads, businesses, students, colleges, parents, teachers, churches, and all the entire community, because it's our responsibility and it's our work. For the last, I would say about 3 years, we've been working on prevention. How do we keep young people from getting in trouble in the first place? How do we make a difference? How do we provide mentoring and helping folks so they can succeed, so they can go to school and get their education, so they can have better outcomes for our entire community? So that's why we do this prison awareness prevention gathering for all these years, and for over 25 years going into the prisons, 6 prisons. These are the reasons, because we really invest in young people, and that's why we thought it was very important, since we talk about empowering the next generation, United We Stand, we wanted to have it at a college and at a high school, because and that kind of like bring it all together, you know, because we want to let our young people know that we care for them and that we also need them to continue this work. A lot of our volunteers, you know, many of them, believe it or not, a lot of them are retired, many of them 80, 90 years old, working with me and doing this work, and they want a break too, so that's why we need you and everybody. So thank you again. Give yourselves another hand of applause. And welcome again. I just want, before we go into our presentations of panelists, I just want to let you know that we have a program for all the college students. How many college students, raise your hand here from Mitchell College? Okay, so you get credit today too for our program. You can have myself or Dr. G to sign your program, but also we have an evaluation too. So before you leave today, please fill out the evaluation, everybody, because we want to know, you know, how we can improve, what areas, what topics that you want us to discuss and to address. This is a solution-focused conference, so we're not just talking about the problem, we are trying to make a difference, and we're trying to continue to meet our communities right where they are and be there for our communities. So give yourselves another hand of applause. So now you better hold up, you better buckle your seatbelt, put your seat on, because we have some serious conversations going on, and more, not just conversations, but action. We can put action to our words too. So without further delay, I would like to introduce some, and I'd like to present to others our moderator today. Her name is Tara Hall. She is a 9-time author, speaker, life coach, life and book coach. She has over 20 years experience working with diverse populations and social services. Tara is a trainer and works to enhance the workplace cultures in the domains of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tara runs a small business training, development, and inspired by supporting others who wish to publish their stories. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications from Rhode Island College, a master in organization management from Eastern College. Tara will be releasing her 4th self-published book early in 2024, focused on women leadership, currently titled, She Leads 7 Principles to Lead and Soar in the Business Life. Let us welcome today Tara Hall. Give her another hand.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I have the pleasure of announcing our first panelist, where we're going to focus on the conversation around mental health crisis among our young people. So the first panelist member I'd like to bring up is Inanda Peterson. Inanda Peterson is a student at Mitchell College studying psychology. She was born and raised in Houston, Texas, to her parents, Angela and Demetrius Peterson, along with her 5 siblings. Her interests are basketball, writing books, and helping others. She is the CEO of Inanda Writes, LLC. She wants to make a difference in her life by not proving to others that she is more than capable of succeeding, but rather by proving to herself that she has the ability to rise above the ordinary to conquer the extraordinary. She is clear that failure is not an option for her and that her past does not define her future. She wants to make a difference in others' lives by motivating, empowering, and inspiring those who have fallen victim to various pains. She wants to encourage them to rise above failure and defeat, to let them know that they too can turn their pain into purpose, have the ability to overcome in spite of any trials and tribulations or stumbling blocks that they may face in life. Welcome to the panel. Our second panelist I'd like to bring to the stage, to the table. Sorry, we were up there first. Is Dr. Giselle Turqui, who is a licensed psychotherapist in Connecticut and co-owns a private practice, Magnolia Wellness LLC, with her daughter Janelle Posey Green, LCSW. She completed her PhD in counseling psychology from Walden University in May of 2021. She received an MS in general psychology from Walden University in 2007 and an MS in special education from Southern Connecticut State University in 1997, and a BA in psychology from Southern University at New Orleans. Currently, she is the Director of Health and Wellness at Mitchell College in New London, where she is an adjunct professor of psychology for 2 years. While working with Care Plus Natchrock Hospital, she developed the curriculum for a professional intensive outpatient and dual diagnosis program. A strong advocate for emotional disabled students, neurodiverse and modality-based ability students, and dual diagnosed individuals, she is a member of the American Psychological Association, Positive Parenting of Connecticut, and the North American Society for Alvarian Psychology. A certified dialectal behavioral therapist and a board-certified grief counselor, as well as a smart recovery therapist. She ascribes to the tenets of having She ascribes to the tenets of having a goal-directed behavior and purpose, and believes in an individual's ability to strive for success and overcome misdirected goals. Areas of professional interest are brain-based learning, mindful meditation, and positive psychology. Her current projects include supporting Black and Indigenous people of color groups to address the historic trauma and social changes in their community. She is also an honored member of Psi Chi, the International Honor Society in Psychology, since 2007. Welcome. And I'd like to welcome Minister Sharon Good to the panel. She has been a minister for Shiloh for over 10 plus years. She has worked in the New London school system for 4 years. Currently, she works as a special education assistant at Jennings School. She has worked with children, for over 40 plus years. She has also worked for Catholic Charities and Advanced Behavioral Health in various capacities, such as a recovery case manager, parent educator, and mental health worker. Minister Sharon quotes, "Children are not only our greatest natural resource, but they are the legacy we leave to the future." Welcome to the panel. So as we open up the panel discussion on mental health crisis among young people, I want to start out with a quote from Glenn Close. And it says, "What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation." So as you think about that quote, my first question to you is, what does that mean to you? We'll start with you, Minister Sharon.
To me, it means we shouldn't be ashamed of it. Any one of us can have a mental health disorder at any time. We should be able to talk about it freely. We should be able to seek the resources that are necessary to get help. So many times we look at our young people and we want to put them in a closet. We don't want to talk about what's actually going on. I work with young children. And you can see, even in the young children, that there needs to be some counseling that needs to take place. But it doesn't happen because the parents, and even some in the school system, are in denial. Part of that denial may be finances. You know, they don't want, you know, in the school system, if you identify the child, you got to support the child. And so they don't want to do that. That would, you know, that's costing money. And the parents are just in denial, my kid's okay, when they're not okay. So don't be ashamed of it. It can happen to any of us.
Okay, so for me, first I'm going to talk, I have a truckload of kids to start. I have 5 kids of my own that I've had. But I've always been around kids, and I've always understood through teaching that modeling is still the best form of teaching. No matter how you cut it, no matter what, you know, you read the research, modeling is still the best form. And I think it's teaching kids to find their voices. And I think when they watch us as adults, and I say this time and time again on this campus to these kids, I say it to my clients, I say it in the community, we have to be mindful of how we perform. Because our kids, those eyes are watching us. So when we watch our kids and we say, oh, you know what, this is going on, and you know, and I'm watching them do this, you have to also look internally as to what we're promoting for our kids and what they're seeing. It's very important. Look at the television, look at the sound bites, look at what's being shown and what they're using as their other models. They need to know that they're hearing your voice when you're not around. Teaching the kids to have their own voices and be their authentic selves. Here at Mitchell College, we talk about beloved community. And everyone on this campus models that. We know because we've got these young folk watching us. And they're good at picking up when you're not doing what you're talking about. They're good at it. They know how to find it. So we need to model and we need to teach them about finding their voices through voting or just having conversations and being accepting and non-judgmental.
Adding off of Dr. T is true. I feel like letting young teenagers and even adults know that it's okay to not be okay, to use your voice and to express when you're not feeling good, and being able to reach out to those people that can help you on campus.
So a few things that, you know, just in that opening that you mentioned, when we think about everything that we've been through, especially during COVID and after, there's been an increase in the need for mental health intervention among young people. And I'm curious to know, like, what are your thoughts about what do you think has been driving that? What do you think has been driving that increase? And let's start with our student campus.
Is this on? Okay. So this was kind of a hard question to answer. So I got some of my peers and I went to some of my professors and I asked them, what do they think is affecting their mental health? And 3 things came to mind after getting all of their responses. There's an identity crisis, comparison, and the last thing that I got is we're overwhelmed by things that we can't control. And it all leads to one thing. Some of y'all might want to get on me after this, but it all leads to, there's a decline in the belief and faith in God. So you start to see, there's a decline in the belief and faith in God. So if we're going to talk mental health issues, we need to address the stigma and also how we're taking God out the school systems and everything else. So you're going to start to see an incline in depression, identity crisis, comparison, and you're going to start to see people overwhelmed by things that they can't control. For number 1, identity crisis. You know, you see people, they're suffering with the question, who am I? What am I put on this earth to do? Everyone, purpose is what drives us. When you don't know your purpose, you're going to start to see suicidal rates start to rise. Because purpose is what wakes us up in the morning, what wakes us up before our alarm clock goes off. It's the extra drive we need, the extra push we need to get out of bed in the morning. When you don't have purpose, you're going to fall to anything. And bringing it back to the situation with God, God said, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you, I appointed you, I gave you purpose. And then my second thing is comparison. We all know comparison is the killer of joy. Today we're living in a digital age where you could be having the worst day of your life. Then you could look on your phone, then you see your friend over there in Dubai, or you see your friend got the job opportunity, or they're having money, so you start comparing your life to their life, but you don't see the trials and tribulations that they had to go to get to that highlight of their life. You're not seeing the things that they went through. And also another thing is looks. A lot of young women and young men are starting comparing themselves to the celebrities in this world and thinking they're not beautiful enough, thinking that it's a lot with it. And basically, we all know that God said He created us perfectly in His image. So what everyone else think about us should not matter. We should love ourselves. And my last thing, we're overwhelmed by things that we can't control. And that's a big thing. When you have God, God tells you, give Him your burdens, and He will give you peace. He will give you joy for your sadness. He will turn your ashes into beauty. So on that point, I'm saying, we try to hold all these things on our shoulder that we can't control. And we try to control everything. Finances may be low. We may lose a job opportunity. We try to control all these things. But God is saying, give it to me. So as long as there continues to be a decline in the topic of God and the belief, it's going to continue to be an increase in mental health issues. And that's something that we just can't move away from. And people are going to be stuck with, who am I? So it's important that people learn to not compare themselves, to know their identity, which is most important, and to learn that you can't control everything. That's why you need to give it to God.
All right. Absolutely. Ditto, 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 ditto. Absolutely. Thank you. And piggybacking on that, when I talk to folk, I talk about hope, and the commissioners early mentioned hope, and I use this little acronym for helping others promotes endurance. We need to be that community again and caring for each other. I talk about being non-judgment, and here we talk about acceptance on this college campus. You don't have to adopt anyone's lifestyle. You do not have to look at someone and say, oh, that you're making me who you are. No, but what you should be able to do is see that human being that's sitting there, that human being that has been created with feelings and emotions and living a life that you're not living. So when you look at someone, you need to hone that skill of listening. Listen to folk. Don't keep talking. Don't in your head formulate what you need to say while someone is speaking. Listen to them. Because sometimes you don't have to say anything. People just need you to listen to them. Therapy, 99% of it is based on people finding their own answers when you non-judgmentally listen to them. Being present. We talk about what's creating this. COVID created isolation. COVID created separation. Humans were not made to be isolated for long periods of time, to feel separated. Fear-based. Our children growing up, our babies, our young folk, again, when they look at us and we can't sit with them and have a conversation, or they watch us be dysregulated, it creates fear in them. So the manifestations that we see, the acting out, is fear-based. They can't articulate that. They just know primally, I don't know who's watching me. I don't know who's going to come and care for me. So you get this primal acting out. We, as the older generations, need to take responsibility again. We abdicated our duties to these babies. So we have to hold ourselves accountable first. Correct us, and these babies will follow right along.
Okay. I thought about this question and what can be done to help young people dealing with depression and suicide.
Your mic.
You gotta give them the freedom to say what they need to say. So, I deal with really young children. Right now I'm working with the kindergartners, and they can't always tell you what it is that's bothering them. They do not have the language. They do not have the words. So you have to guess with them what's going on. I always say to them in the morning, I say, so what's up with you today? So how are you feeling today? I have one little boy, he doesn't have any language to be able to explain, but he'll go and look at the emotions calendar and he'll make the face of the feeling that he's having today. And I said, oh, so you're upset today, or oh, you're happy today. And we work that way. Always check in. We don't check in enough with our kids to find out, how are you feeling today? You know, you need to allow them to be free enough to say to you, I don't feel so hot today. I'm mad today. And you made me mad today. They need to be able to say that. I don't like you. You know, they have to be able to say what they're feeling in order to get in touch with what's going on around them. And that's my feeling about this. Allow young people to say what they need to say to feel themselves and know that someone's listening. And you know, like I always said, I think I did a sermon one time, or I wrote one, I forget what it is, and it was about 9/11. The reason 9/11 happened, nobody was listening. That's why it happened. And we're having a 9/11 with our young people. We don't realize it, but we're having a 9/11 and nobody's listening. We got to listen. We just got to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a passionate panel, right? Thank you. Thank you. You know, and as I was listening to a few of the things that you were sharing, especially Ananda, about those three areas that, you know, the identity, the comparison, and what we can't control. There are so many things that we can control. And Dr. T, you just talked about some of those things. We can control our ability to actually engage and connect with people. We can listen. And for those that don't have words, we can pay attention to their nonverbal, which is just as important as their verbal. So with that said, you kind of led into the next point of the conversation, which is what are some additional things that you think we can do to help young people who are dealing with these things? And that may be, you know, some services potentially, but what specifically are some things that you have? And I'm going to defer this to Dr. T.
Thank you. The first thing I want to start with is I became certified in what's called mental health first aid. Actually, I talked about this in my dissertation. And the beautiful thing about Mitchell's campus, Dr. Martinez, Dr. Espy, they allowed me to go out, get certified so I can become a teacher of this in the community. And Mitchell College will be offering this to the community very soon, so please pay attention to what's coming out. Just like regular first aid, physical first aid, this gives you a certification for 3 years, and it teaches you to be a basic resource for folk. So if someone comes to you and says, you know, last night it was dark. I was contemplating jumping out that window or, you know, just stepping in front of a vehicle. You don't freeze. You act as a resource and say, hey, I can tell you're having a rough time. You know, you're going through it right now. How can I help you? How can I support you? I have resources for you. So one way is becoming certified in mental health first aid in the community. This is not telling you you can diagnose. That's not what this is. This is about you being a resource, being that conduit to getting help and support. That's what this is. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, because this is accessible to everyone. And just connecting with your pastors, your churches, your, you know, going to your physicians and talking with them about what you need. Because just like when clients come to me, you know, I've had the question, how do you know I'm not lying to you? Well, you know, I don't. What I do know is when you walk out that door and you go back in your reality, I'm not with you. So your responsibility to yourself when I'm in here and I'm listening to you is to be open and honest and find your voice. I'm not going to judge you. I'm here to support you. So it's important to find someone who can hear you and is there with you, ride or die, and they will tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear, because that's important. You need folk around you that's going to be honest with you and support you and tell you and be there in those tough times and hang with you in those tough times. So it's finding those resources. I think looking for mental health first aid in your community, becoming aware with that. 211, we talked about 211 being a resource. That's a main resource to find certain, whatever you might need in your community as far as resources go.
So if you could expand just a little bit on the certification for mental health, what is the process, what is the timeline for someone to become certified?
The group can last anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, depending on how large the group is, but you go through a whole series of PowerPoint talking about scenarios that people, when they're having psychotic episodes, just resource information, and just breaking that down. So it's about a 5 to 8 hour course. And then when you're done, you come out with a 3-year certification on just general resource information and general knowledge about mental health diagnoses in the community, but not diagnosing. That's not what it is.
Excellent. So that's a great resource just for everyone to make note of. And that's a message that can be shared beyond these walls, absolutely. So I want to ask, leading into that for our Minister Sharon and Inanda, if you can talk about what services are available to your knowledge in your school and in your community or schools that you work in. Inanda, you go first.
Okay, in the elementary schools, you have your school psychologist.
Use your microphone, please.
All right. In the elementary schools, you have your resources. You have your school psychologist. You have your administration, which is your principal, your associate principal. You also have what we call an interventionist, a wellness interventionist, and they pretty much cover a lot of areas of need for our family. You also have your social workers. We have social workers at the school. And I'd like to share with parents that your primary source is the child's teacher. Sometimes we form a bias against the teacher because she's always calling, so-and-so did this, they did this, they didn't have such a good day today. But she is a resource, or he is a resource. And if you would just talk with them, they can help you and they can guide you in different directions. They can set up different situations for you to speak to your school psychologist, to speak to the social worker. And we have, in the schools, we have a child and family resources. They're there. There's so much help in the school, right in the school, for your child, that all you have to do is ask. That's the main thing. Just ask, and you can get the help you need. And I say to some parents say, well, I asked, nobody helped. Keep asking. Keep asking. Be that oil in the wheel. Like just keep asking, because they'll get tired of you asking and they'll help.
So I'm a first-year Mitchell College student, but what Dr. T has told me and informed me about is that if students need help, they can go to her and reach out for therapy, and she will, like for black students, she will help you find someone that looks like that student. And because sometimes it feels more comfortable talking to someone that understands your struggles, or someone that looks like you, someone that you're comfortable with. Also, Dr. T also talks about having your top 5. At Mitchell College, they inform all students that it's best to have 5 people that you are close with, so that you can go to when you need help. And I think that has been a real good resource at Mitchell College.
Absolutely. I love these kids. Don't you love them?
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is, we're going to prepare to open it up for questions from the audience, but I would also like to first at this point invite Jean Milstein to share a little bit more with us from your lens in regards to the urgent crisis centers from Shiloh.
Thank you so much. This is such an inspiration. And Ms. Peterson, our future is so bright, so bright. And I hope you stay in New London. I really do. I mean, we have a mayor here, we've got a state representative, we have our police chief here. You know, we need you. We need you in New London, we need your leadership. And I'd like to thank Shiloh for organizing this. It's so important. Before the commissioner leaves...
No, I'm not leaving.
Okay. First, you know, what I'd like to say too about mental health is that children are part of a family. Whatever that family looks like, children are part of a family. So I think what's so important about what we're talking here today is when we help children, we help their families, we help multi-generations. And so I think that's really important too. And I think one of the most important points you said is that we just have to listen. You know, if you listen, people tell you what they need. We've just gone through our American Rescue Act procurement process, and the first question that we ask on our application is, whose idea was this? Because a lot of times, a lot of us who get paid to do this work, it's our idea. It's not the people who are most impacted. And we receive some of the most extraordinary applications, and we'll be funding some really amazing initiatives. So I'd like to thank, too, the police chief who's here, Chief Wright, and also Representative Nolan. We have two statewide leaders in the area of mental health. Representative Nolan, who was able to secure funding for this urgent crisis center, which, as I said to the commissioner, is probably one of the most important initiatives that has come out of the state of Connecticut in many, many years. And so thank you, and for your continuing work. And we have a very successful Navigator program that we started in 2016 that many of you are familiar with around the opioid crisis. So we have people with lived experience who are actually engaging people in the community. How can I help you? What do you need today? You need a sandwich? I'll get you a sandwich. You need a ride? And the model has been so successful that we are now working on launching it with our amazing police chief and police department so that we will have mental health navigators available to our police 24/7. You know, emergency mobile site is critically important because we have a resource that's available for a crisis. But what happens after the crisis? What happens tomorrow? You talk about 5 people who I'm learning so much. And so the navigators will be that sort of warm handoff. And the people that, the reason it's taken so long to get off the ground is because we have a workforce issue in the state, as we know. We have to get the right people in these positions. So there will be individuals with lived experience with mental health issues who will be working with the police, working with the community to get people what they need and when they need it. That's really important too. One of the things, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll think about doing an internship. Representative Nolan and I is here. Because one of the things that we try and do in our work here, and I think it's also really important, is we have to, as we do our work and listen to people, identify some of the system's barriers. So what are those barriers? It might be insurance. So we work on advocating the insurance issues. You know, you said, you know, you have to keep making noise and be that way. Oh, well, we're going to keep making noise until, you know, we get some of these issues. You need, that's one of the beautiful things about the Urgent Crisis Center, is you get what you need when you need it. And it's based on what you need. And I'm going to thank you, Commissioner, really, truly. And so working on more community-based services, working with so many of our partners. We're so lucky to have Mitchell College and Dr. Espy as leaders in this area. I don't know if I answered all the questions.
You did.
Oh, Tara, can I just say something right quickly, if you don't mind? I want to give special shout out to Ginny Mills. Since when I moved here in '93, I have seen you. This woman has been an advocate for children and families since I moved here in 1993, statewide. So if you don't know her, please introduce yourself, because this woman has been behind the scenes working for children and families. And I've just always been in awe of you and the work that you've done. And I just want to say thank you in front of everyone, that it's not missed, and you know that people do see you and what you do. And thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an amazing team of people. Please, everybody in this room, and And just thank you. And Brother Taylor, I wish you were up here telling me to stop talking.
I'm going to say that.
Thank you again, thank you. And a special shout out to my friend Debbie Phillips, who's getting the Community Service Award. We've known each other for decades. We know she deserves this award. Thank you for making a difference every day.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on you.
So I know that there were some note cards that are passed around for anyone who, or going to be. If anyone has a question, please feel free to either stand up, ask your question of the panel, but now is the time to have some dialogue, additional dialogue, I should say. Don't be shy.
Don't wait for the card. Just raise your hand.
I have a question for the doctor here. You talked about the certification program, that 5 to 6 hours. Do you have an idea when that is going to be beginning?
It's in the works. Actually, I was speaking with Dr. Martinez, who is our dean of everything on this campus. And so it's in the planning stages. And again, as soon as we get it off and rolling, Dr. Martinez, you have to place a time. Would you say like maybe a couple of months or before we can maybe get something out to the community? January. So be on the lookout. We're going to get it out to social media. We'll connect with our departments. My son, Josh Posey, is the rec director here in New London. So we will make sure and get it to the rec departments, to every department that is connected, Boys and Girls Clubs, that we are having those community cooperatives with. So it's going to be out there. I promise you. I promise you. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe you could send it to the email addresses if we gave an email address on the way in, too.
Yes, that would work, because I think that's Shiloh reps out there right now. So did they give emails out there? Because if so, we can collect those.
Yeah, on the registration, when you come in the morning, there was a request for your email or a contact number. So if you didn't fill that out, just please do so we can share the information. Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay. My question is kind of, my name is Thomas Simmons. I am president of the Student Government Association at Mitchell College, but also I'm the founder of the Mental Health Awareness Club here. So my question is kind of for Dr. T and Ms. Peterson. How have you, in the past, for Dr. T, your past years of working here as an adjunct professor and then moving into your role as Director of Health and Wellness, how have you seen mental health improve here on campus and how that supports the beloved community?
I think it's because of the folk that we have here. There are certain things you can't teach. And part of that is that drive. Someone had talked about drive. Was it you, baby girl? Someone talked about waking up. Yes, having that drive when you wake up. And I got to be honest with you. The folk on this campus, they have that drive. And I think there is something about the atmosphere that, again, you can't teach. It's having that motivation of, there's something more. I do ascribe to, Adler talking about we all have those goals. Sometimes they get misdirected, and then you have to steer back. But when you have a goal and you keep going for that, and it's driving you to accomplish that, it helps you. I've seen big changes here, and I've seen the changes because of students like you, like Ananda. I've seen it. We have Dr. Martinez here, Dr. Espy. And again, guys, when I talk about modeling, and when you got it from the top, and you see the person at the top come around and give me a bottle of water, what does that say? What does that say? That tells you right there what we have on this campus and the magic that we have on this campus. That the things happen because people believe in themselves. You have to know you and what you need before you can attempt to try to know anybody else, start any relationship or anything like that. You have to have some sense of spirituality. You got to believe in something. Because research shows, if you don't believe in anything, you will struggle forever. So you got to believe in something. So it's the folk you have around you, Tommy, those people that drive you, those people that uplift you and always want you to do better. And that's what it's about.
Thank you, Dr. T.
You're welcome.
And then my question for you, Ms. Peterson, you're like a new student at Mitchell, you're a first year.
No matter what you identify as, it gives everyone a chance to be their self in a judgment-free zone. So it makes people feel safer to go out and go the extra mile. It made me feel safer to come up here, and I never did this before, and speak in front of everybody because
That's right.
Mitchell College makes me feel Mitchell College lets everyone, regardless of race, gender, classification, makes you feel comfortable in being who you are and being able to stand away from the crowd. I feel like a lot of people, they try to stand in the crowd, but sometimes you have to be that black sheep to walk away from the crowd and to make a change, to make a difference, to make an impact on this world. Mitchell College, they build up leaders, they build up people that wants to make a change, and I've seen this for being even my first year here, so yes, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions before we close? Yes.
I have one quick question. Ayana, did you say you are a student athlete?
Yes, ma'am, I participate in basketball and cross country.
Awesome. What do you think is your message to student athletes who often find themselves really pressured in the mental health space?
Basketball? Ooh. So basketball is something like, you can really get down on yourself in sports because sometimes people, they put their all inside their sport. So I feel like one thing I would say, okay, I did cross country for my first time and I was getting top in every race really. And one thing I learned when I'm on that cross country, you have to pace yourself. You can't run at everyone else's pace. You have to, and you might hear someone behind you coming up, but you can't get scared. You can't. If you go too fast, you're going to die. I mean, you're going to kill yourself at the end of the race. So it's all about pacing yourself, running your own race, not looking. You have to have those blindfolds on, and you can't look to your left, you can't look to the right. You just got to do your own race. Pace yourself, go at your own timing, and everything else will flow. And that's why I also talk about comparison is the killer of joy. Most people in sports, they compare themselves. Oh, I'm not this good. I'm not better than this person. But like I said, in cross country, it taught me to breathe in, breathe out, let my mind clear my thoughts, and focus on my race. Don't focus on the people that's coming up behind me, because if I try to sprint, I'm going to be tired. I'm not going to be able to finish my race. So it's about pacing yourself, doing your own race. Let it come to you, and it's all going to come. Changing your perspective.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is more of a statement rather than a question. Today's presentation, you three did a remarkable job, and I think it presented extremely well, and each person here was touched in some way or some manner. And you know, there's a proverb that says, iron sharpens iron, which highlights how important our actions are. Words and actions tend to affect one another, so it's important that we act accordingly. And last but not least, Ms. Patterson, you are remarkable. I think I'm anxious and excited to see what your future is. I know it will be bright, and thank you for sharing yourself with us today.
So before we close on our panel, I just want to highlight a few. Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more question.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to echo your statements, Stephanie. The panel is awesome. Dr. T, you mentioned the mental health first aid training. If you could just give us one takeaway that you took from that we could just become aware of when we're interacting with others.
Everyone matters. Everyone matters. The other piece that we have on our campus, Dr. Espy talks about that kaleidoscope of individuals that we have on this campus. We are a fabric. We are a nation of fabric. You know, everyone brings something valuable to the table. Everyone. And so from this, we can all make our communities better. by having some general knowledge. And it's that reciprocity of, you know, you give out to the community and you see something that you've done to affect some positive change. It inspires you and drives you to want to do more. And so the thing from this is you matter. You are a vibrant and valued member of the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, you have a couple more questions.
Just a quick comment on the course. I took that course 7 years ago. The first aid, just like we do with cardiac resuscitation, just like we do with Stop the Bleed program, mental health needs to be on that trajectory. And everybody needs to participate or we're never going to get this under control.
Thank you. And there's one question in the back, gentlemen.
Hello, my name is Mustafa Dinat, and just more of a statement. After hearing you guys talk to Mrs. Bilstein, I can see how passionate and how intentional you guys are with your words and your beliefs, and I love that, and I can see you guys move and live with a purpose.
I'm just scanning to make sure that's not right. Yes.
One last, Doctor, you talk so much about the importance of children having examples. And I watched over 30 years of creating in me something that I call kids, and they're not the Xerox machines. They copy what they see. And what they're seeing are the surroundings of their parents. About the last 30 years have spent their time at 2, 3, and 4 jobs. So although we're offering an awful lot of support to young people, maybe we should also start to consider offering some support to their parents, because you cannot teach your child something you do not know. And they have not had the ability to learn certain things, not because they were in a bar, not because they were high, because they were at work. And unfortunately, society has convinced a lot of us that if they are failing, it's through a fault of their own because they don't care. And a lot of these people put their blood, sweat, tears, everything else into their lives of making sure there was a roof over their head, there was food in the house, and it took all of their time to do it because there's 1 of 3 or 4 jobs: Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, and the casino.
That's a good point. And, you know, we talk just quickly about the community. That is where I talk about older generations have sort of abdicated, because there used to be that connection where you had those aunties and those uncles that kids went out to when, you know, your parents were like at their wits' end, or the child was like, oh, I need a break. So yes, there's that interconnected community that we don't have anymore, where we are connected and we support those parents and the family and what they need. Yeah, absolutely.
So as we close out, because we have to move on to our next panel, I just want to highlight a couple of things as takeaways from our panel. 1, check in with people. 2, help others promote endurance. 3, model. 4, help people find their voice. And 5, find your top 5 people to stay connected to. Thank you to our panel.
Thank you so much to our moderator and our panelists. So you are released from your duties right now, and we're going to call on our next panel in a few minutes.
Which is becoming a change agent and using your voting power.
Excuse me, everybody. Let's start out the next.
So we're transitioning to our second panel, which is on change, becoming a change agent and using your voting power. So I want to introduce our second set of panel members. And our first panel member is Zion Huntley, who is a student at Mitchell College, majoring in sports management and business. He is from Maryland, born to parents Regina and Lavelle Huntley. Mr. Huntley plans to make a difference by letting people know that they can speak their minds and to never be afraid. His goals are to pursue a boxing career or to become a sports agent. Welcome, Zion. Our next panel member is attorney Lonnie Braxton. He was born in Mississippi and has one sister, Catherine L. Braxton, who is the younger of 2 children born to Lonnie and Lenora Braxton. He graduated from high school in Greenville, Mississippi, after which he entered active duty as a naval reservist serving aboard the USS Amphion AR-13. He received his discharge from the U.S. Navy in Norfolk, Virginia, after which he migrated to Connecticut to pursue his educational dreams. Braxton is a graduate of Connecticut College and Connecticut School of Law. In December of 2021, he retired after almost 30 years as a senior assistant state's attorney for the state of Connecticut. He is married to Gwendolyn T. Braxton. His son, Lonnie Braxton III, is an accomplished Special Olympics athletic, having won many gold medals in tennis and bowling, with several of them on the national level. Braxton is a noted African American and civil rights movement historian. During the month of February, for the last 17 years, he hosted an African American film festival at the New London Library, where he also places on display historical African American memorabilia from his private collection. Over the years, Braxton has served on a number of boards. Currently, he is a member of the Lyman Allen Museum Board of Directors, the New London Public Library, and the New London Landmarks. He is a life member of the NAACP and is a past president of the New London branch. Braxton has lectured and given speeches at venues throughout the country. His knowledge of American history is extensive, and at every opportunity, he uses it to educate others, especially our youth. Braxton, his various hobbies include greenhouse gardening, woodworking, sports car restoration, photography, reading, and collecting and screening of vintage African American films. Thank you for being on the panel. Our next panel member is Representative Anthony Nolan. First elected in 2018, Nolan is in his 3rd term as state representative serving New London's 39th district. He is the chair of Legislature's Veteran and Military Affairs Committee and a member of the Appropriations and Internship Committees. Speaker of the House, Matt Ritter, appointed Nolan to the state's Juvenile Justice Policy and Oversight Committee. Ritter cited Nolan's law enforcement background in support and advocacy of legislation targeting racism and social justice. He has spent his entire life in public service. He served with the U.S. Navy and retired in April of 2023 after 23 years as a New London police officer. He was a 4-term member of the New London City Council and served as council president during a difficult time. Nolan is a deacon at Shiloh Baptist Church and advocate for many youth programs in the city. Youth advocacy is a priority for Nolan, who represented children's interests on the Board of Education. He also volunteered in countless programs, including the New London Youth Collaborative and City Youth Talent Show. Nolan was awarded the NAACP Freedom Fund Award, NAACP Danny Jenkins Memorial Award, the Rotary Club of New London Unsung Hero Award, and the National Council of Negro Women Bethune Legacy Award. So as I mentioned, this particular panel is discussing becoming a change agent and using voting power. And I wanted to open up this panel discussion with a quote from Angela Davis. "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept." So this first question, as we open up this conversation, is our country is divided on many fronts, to name a few, some of those being political, social, economic, and racially, which is bringing a major toll on our country. So the first question is to all the panel members, and we'll start with our student voice first. How do we keep people engaged and holding the belief that their voice and vote still matter?
Personally speaking, I feel like we have to allow people to understand that they have a voice to use. You know, change isn't going to happen over time. So rather than changing things that we can't change, we got to change things that we can change. And we got to, you know, let it take its part, because, you know, stuff isn't going to happen over time. So we have to be patient. We have to keep moving forward with the things that we can change, and we have to speak up about it, because if we don't speak up about it, you know, it's only going to get worse. So I feel like we have to use our voice, and most importantly, we have to be patient with all the things that's going to happen in the future.
Thank you. Same question to the president. Yes.
My turn. I'm looking out at the audience, and there was one other person sitting on this side, but the child's gone. There's only one person, that's a young girl sitting in the seat here, who really matters. And that's because that's when the teaching should start. The older ones of us sitting in these chairs, if it doesn't matter to us, we've lost our way. Because you don't teach a person to get interested in the policies of being a voter, of having something that's going to make you valuable not only to yourself but to your community, and that's your vote. And I'll take you back to a time that we were all living in. In 2016, that election was the first time in 20 years that the number of African American voters actually went down. And what did we get? And if you go back to 2008, when Obama ran for the presidency, the number of African Americans who voted in this country skyrocketed. It was over 70% in states like Maryland, Mississippi, Virginia, Wisconsin, Tennessee, now in North Carolina. Those states I mentioned, you know something strange about it? That's where all of the laws are being passed to disenfranchise people. So if you want to really do something, let's educate ourselves. Because there's an old African proverb. Until the lions have their own historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. And what's been happening is we have been telling these tales glorifying other people. Now, I'm a self-confessed geek. And for those of you who are old as I am, can remember a TV show called Have Gun Will Travel? Yeah. With Paladin, I'm Mr. Have Book Will Travel. I always bring books because I'm always educating myself. The young lady who was sitting at the end, Miss Patterson, she and I had a chance to meet a while ago. And I asked the class that I spoke to, is knowledge power? And they were all going, oh yes. And my response was, when are you going to get yourself some knowledge? And you get yourself some knowledge, you'll understand the power, the importance of the vote. And if you don't think voting is important, take your elderly grandmother standing in a line in Florida for 4 or 5 hours in the sun, and you bring her a glass of water or a bottle of water as the dean of this college did, and watch yourself get arrested. And what's the reason behind that? To make it hard, to make you give up, to make you not persevere. So if we want to keep the young involved, we have to educate them, not when they sit in the chairs of this school, not in the pews of the church, but when they're being held in our arms as babes.
Vincent, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. And I'm just honored to be here. You know, I don't know if anybody's ever sat in the bathroom mirror and looked in the mirror and imagined yourself as somebody. Sitting next to this guy. You know, it's like seeing Captain America, you know, and just the knowledge and education that he talks about is exactly the way that we are to make sure that we keep this relevance in regards to voting. So basically promote, amplify, recognize, and educate are the ways that we accomplish this. And when I speak about promoting, that means promoting active participation. We have to get out there as adults and show those who are going to take our seats how to do it. And while we're doing that, we can't stand in their way to the things that they want to see change or the things that they think are important for them. We can't decide for them all the time. We have to use our ears and listen, because when we don't, we push them out and we push them away. And that's why many of our youth, or those that are going to come after us, aren't involved in politics as much as they are today. It's because we push them away. And we have to stop doing that. And we have to help them by promoting active participation and showing them how to do it. And being patient with them so they can really understand. Amplifying the voice. We have to show them how to speak up, and that they don't have to be scared to talk about the things that are relevant to them today. And sometimes when you say speak up, you actually have to, excuse me, for stand up, you have to stand with them. Because if you don't stand with them, then they don't always feel the power that they need. And they don't really understand. The young lady that was here earlier, I was so happy to hear her voice, the strength in her voice, the power that she had by sharing and explaining to us what it is that she believed that we needed to do to help, especially with mental health. Amazing job she did. So amplifying the voice, providing platforms for our youth. We need to start being more active in having and making places for them to stand and show and have a voice. Those are things that we really need to start doing. Recognizing and uplifting them. You know, the same way that we get uplifted, we have to recognize and uplift them. You know, there's a lot of our youth that are standing up to do things. And sometimes we think that they're doing things a little bit stronger than we would, so we try and kind of give the silent treatment to them or kind of step aside. We can't do that. We just have to give them an understanding, and that comes with educating them in regards to how it is that we can help them. So education and awareness, educate our individuals about history. You know, sometimes we lack really telling the truth about our history. And then we have a lot of people that try and keep it hidden, and they don't want it to come out because some of them are going to feel ashamed because it might have been their family members a long time. But that is, the goal is to just tell the truth and not hide. Those are the things that we really have to do to try and make sure that we keep people engaged and help them believe that there is relevance of their vote. And I think those are the things that are important. Thank you.
One other thing he's leaving out because of modesty. We have to support people like this. On the date, time, to vote. That's great. But on the date and time you have to cast that ballot, you need to be there in that line and cast that ballot. And if we are there doing that, young people will see us doing that, and it will make a difference. The biggest takeaway I got from the 2008 and 2012 election was it scared the daylights out of this country. Because black women showed up in greater numbers than any other ethnic group, any other racial group, any other gender, and it frightened people. Because right after that, you saw laws come back into place, being enacted, voter ID became strong. You had to end up being, purged from the polls. And if you look at the states that was going on in, it's amazing. So if voting doesn't count, why are they doing so much to discourage it?
And with that being said, I just want to go back to something that was raised earlier, where Representative Nolan, you spoke about speaking up and using your voice. And I want to ask all the panel members what that actually means. Because we talk about the power of voice, but we also have people who are afraid to speak up. So what does that mean? How are people encouraged to speak up and verbally use their voice?
For those that I get a lot of voters that are actually worried to use their voice. So you have to be willing to stand in for them. You have to be willing to accept, no matter how you agree or disagree, what others are saying, so that you can make sure that you get it out there. Standing up and using your voice sometimes takes you partnering with other people. So if you see others that are at the table, don't be scared to walk up to those that are at the table and talk to them about your concerns and bring to them the things that you would like to see changed in our world. Many times people are too intimidated because of titles. We have to realize that that person that has that title didn't have it at one time. Now that they have it, it's to benefit those around them. So they are to be used, their service is to be used for you. So when it comes to your voice, if you're having trouble talking, go to those that are at the table, or find someone that you see that is in your community that is speaking up, and have that quiet conversation with them if you need to have a quiet conversation. But just know that no matter whether you give the voice or you give it to those that are in that position, don't be scared, because it's okay. A lot of people always compliment and say things to me, but then I have some people that ridicule and say things because I need to read from stuff in my position. And I always tell people, don't be scared to read from something to get out what you want to get out. Because if the president can read from a teleprompter, you can read from a paper.
That's good. That's real good. Thank you. That's good.
All right. I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Us as a generation, I feel like as the younger generation, we have to pick up where we left off as the older generation left off from. Speaking up not means only to speak up and speak how you feel, but I want every one of us to keep one thing in mind, that you got to realize a closed mouth does not get fed. So I feel like we definitely have to not only come together, but we have to speak about the things that we want to change on, because everyone in here wants to change on one thing at least. So we got to speak up and come together.
I'm a person who likes to think all the time too. And I'm ADD, so I'm always hyping. Now, how many people out here have ever heard the name Leo Leonard? How many have heard the name Gorsuch or Kavanaugh or Barrett, Supreme Court? They speak with this. Leo Leonard speaks with $1.79 billion. And as a result, you have all those guys on the Supreme Court. So we are always thinking about speech as talking or being heard out loud. Speak silently with these. Make sure guys like this and other people we support get the same kind of funding that these people get so they can get into office. And I will challenge you to actually go and read about Leo Leonard. And when you find out how powerful this guy is and what he's able to accomplish, you will be floored. But you don't know his name because he doesn't speak standing on a soapbox. He doesn't speak with a microphone in his hand. He speaks with a checkbook. And there's one thing this country understands is a checkbook. And when people run for office, they cannot do without a war chest. And these people provide those chests, and they win wars. So when you find your rights being chewed up and taken away and diminished, and you not being heard, no matter how loud you scream, raise them.
So you raised the point around capital, right? And that talking. So when we think about the gains that have been made over the years to enhance where we are today when it comes to voting and voter rights and voter registration, what are some additional things that we can work on to address those remaining systemic issues that still kind of tear away at our country? and we'll start.
I think we have to, again, we have to come together and let them see the amount of people that we have in our communities that will make that change. It's about collaborating. It's about opening your mouth and having the discussions that are needed for people to understand what it is that we have to fight to do. Constantly, we say and we complain about things, but we don't always come together as one to talk about those things. And I'm not talking with your politicians. I'm talking about as a community. We don't have enough community meetings. We don't have enough house meetings. We don't fellowship like we used to fellowship. So those are things that we have to really start doing and come together in small groups and then branching out to bigger groups, so that I don't know if you call it a stigma, but so that problem is addressed. So it's about trying to reach out and work out what we need to change the ways that things have been to the things we need them to be.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback off of what he said, I feel like as we do come together, we got to rebuild as well. I feel like when we come to make change, there's a lot of stuff that breaks apart because we're not patient enough to understand those changes. So once when we come together and rebuild, we got to speak up and speak out.
I don't want to be au contraire, but see, I look at America as a boat, and we're all in it. And the Titanic is sailing at full speed. And there may be a few people in first class, but there are not enough lifeboats. If this boat goes down, we have to explain to everybody, we're all going down with it. So somehow we've gotten to a point where we think that I'm going to be saved. And we believe in if you die, it's your fault. The boat's holding us all. And we all need to be not necessarily rowing in the same direction, but at least know we're going in the same direction. And what's happened, I guess, recently is we've kind of have this belief since World War II, after like probably the late 60s, that if he gets something, I lost something. It's a zero-sum game. And so they play that game with people of diversity-wise, if you're a different color, if you're a different religion, if you're a different gender, the isms of, if you get that, I'm going to lose that. So if you have a person who has a different sexual orientation, he or she pays tax. So that means for their tax dollar, they should get less because they're gay. Or as a black person, my parents worked like a dog in Mississippi, paid their tax, and couldn't get use of good streets or good garbage pickup. They didn't give them a cut in tax. When my turn came along, I put on a uniform and volunteered to fight for this country, and could have died in Vietnam, and have someone say they're not going to rent me because I'm black. So what we have to do is say no more zero sum. We're all in this boat together. Let's get on with it.
I just want to just give that picture. The boat. So if everybody can just imagine 20 people in a boat, 10 on one side and 10 on the other side. And you see the 10 on the right side rowing the boat forward, but you see the 10 on the left side rowing the boat backwards. What do you think is happening? They're going in a circle. Yep. And that's what some of our communities have been doing. So if we stop going in that circle and we all row the right way, then that's when things will change.
Yeah, but you left out the other key part. And there's some kook in there trying to punch a hole in it.
That's right. Be on the same team.
So as we think about all that's been shared, provide our audience with one major takeaway as we embark on our next selection.
Be a leader in your own way. Everybody here has a different purpose, you know.
Yes, sir.
I feel like you have to use that purpose, and everyone who has a purpose has a why. So when you find that why, you stick with it, keep going with it. But keep it to the point where you find your strengths and you better those strengths. I feel like when you find your strengths, that's when you know what you're best at and what you could control, rather than trying to change something you can't.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, I'm thinking, I look at a young man like this, young lady, and I've had 3 great teachers in my life, or really 4, that really stand out. My mother, my father. I have a child with Downs who's taught me more than anything I thought I'd ever learn. And I got a 6th grade teacher who's 97 years old who's retired now. And watching how people will just give you of themselves. And in the giving, there's a light that comes out. And that light shines bright. And if you follow and look at that light, you know that you have an obligation to set an example for all of those who see you. And I always remind young people, I will never ever be perfect. But if you see me doing something wrong, please remind me so I can do better. Because my job is not to fail you, nor myself.
First, I want everybody to know that for those that are in office, every one of them are approachable. Every one of them are in that seat to hear and to do for those who put them there. That's something you have to really remember. Because what people do is you elect them. Some you elect them because you've known them for a long time. Some you elect because they're better than electing the other person. And some you elect just because your friends tell you to elect them. You have to make sure that person that is in that seat is doing all that they can to change what you need to change. Hold them accountable. Keep their feet on the fire, which means they have to constantly be doing something to change something in your community. And holding them accountable means that no matter how many times you call, or no matter how many times that you want stuff, they have to listen. So please, it don't matter who they are. Your word means enough for them to have to listen. And that's what we have to remember.
Thank you. So before we move to Q&A, I want to turn the mic over to Nicole, who is from Hearing Youth Voices, to share a little more.
Hello everyone. I first want to thank Brother Winston for allowing us to be here. My name is Nicole Broadus, and I do work for an organization called Hearing Youth Voices. We are a youth-led organization. We work to develop young people to be able to challenge and to take on issues in their community and in their schools and run issue-based campaigns. So right now what we are working on is our Vote Equals Power campaign. Just like Mr. Braxton, Mr. Nolan, and our young gentleman, I'm so sorry I didn't see your last name, but just as they were talking about is the power we have when we use our voice and our right to vote. Especially in our local elections, every vote counts, and we do have to hold the people who are sitting in our city council and who are our board of education, who are our mayor, we have the right to hold them accountable. And so this voting year, We are asking people to make sure that you are registered to vote. If you are not sure if you're registered to vote, we have a table back there. You can also go to the Connecticut Voters Registration online to check to make sure all of your information is correct. Again, I cannot stress enough, and one thing that we are teaching our young people is one of the rights that we do have is to vote, and we should be acknowledging that and exercising that right. So please visit us back there if you want more information about the work that Hearing Youth Voices is doing. We'll be back there until 2 o'clock. All right. Thank you. Yeah, you see, voting is savage, so I got you. All right, thank you so much.
So we want to open up our panel discussion to any questions that are here in our audience. Yes, Jones.
So I have my name is Otis Burton, by the way. I have a question for State Rep Nolan. When it comes to brothers and sisters that are running for election that come from Black and brown communities, they often go in with that fire and they go in with good intentions, but like they allow the compromise of it all to get them to lose sight of their initiative. So it's like, I understand that the world has to have compromise, but like when it comes to adapting, you're supposed to adapt to the point of survival, not to the point where you compromise your values and morals. So my question to you is, what do you do to keep yourself locked in?
That's a great question. That's a powerful question. And I gotta tell you, it's hard because you have to decide which part of the community sometimes that you're gonna vote in favor of. And that's why I always say, you have to contact your legislators to let them know how strong you feel about something. Because I'm gonna say what I do a great amount of the time is, I vote where I get mostly the input. You know, so if I, for example, if I get 100 people that want me to vote for clean slate, and I get 15 people who don't want me to vote for clean slate, I have to use that decision of more people requiring, you know, for me to vote in that favor. Now, if it's about when I get up there, what I should vote on or what I should vote on because of either morals and or because of it's difficult because there are some things that you want your community to get, and sometimes to get that, you have to vote for something you don't want to vote for, especially money. You know, New London needs quite a deal of money, you know. So are there things that you have to sacrifice in order to get? That happens a lot. How to control it? It depends on what it is that you're deciding. It's hard because if I think that we need money for affordable housing and someone doesn't want me to, and someone wants me to vote for something or not vote for something, and it's going to determine whether I get that money for affordable housing, I call a lot of people. And I say, I need your voice to help me decide on this sometimes. Because once you're up there in Hartford, you'll get, well, I'm going to need you to vote for this. And if you don't vote for this, I don't know if I can support this for you. People do that, and they do it out of spite. They do it out of hate. So it's something that you really have to, I use a lot of my faith and what I believe in to decide on things. You know, because, you know, my faith is kind of unmovable in who I believe in. So I lean towards that, but I do use the voice of the people a lot, but I don't let it mess up my faith though. It's hard, though. I'll tell you that. It is difficult. And it's a revolving door to work on.
And he only has one vote. Don't ever forget that. He has one vote. And if he wants to have other people to support New London, there'll be times he's going to have to think real hard, dig real deep, and probably bite his lip to make sure that that next vote, that something New London wants really bad, he has a number of votes to actually make it happen. Yep. You know, it's again, we have to stop the zero-sum thinking that if I don't get my way, it's the highway. We just watched in the last 3 weeks people willing to burn down the house and not have another place to live. You know, there were a couple of guests, you know, this guy destroy everything, don't care. He's not that kind of person. At the end of the day, he would like to have something left for us. But if he used a scorched earth tactic, there'll be nothing for anybody, and nothing will get done.
Stephanie, the question in the back.
Actually more of a statement. I know that that was a hard question for you to answer, but I just want to say that, you know, a person living in New London County, not just for you, but also too for Attorney Braxton, character is everything. And I just want to applaud you two as African-American men for always staying in the right.
Any other questions? So before we break, I want to just note a couple of highlights from our panel. One is to educate yourself. 2, partner with others. 3, speak up and speak for those who are unable. And 4, be willing to stand for others. With that, I will close out our panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Let's give her a hand. Let's give our panelists a hand. This panel, the first panel. Thank you so much. Wow, what a courageous conversations. We thank you all so much for being here. I just want to do a few reminders and also to let you know about our upcoming program. Before you leave today, please fill out the evaluation. That's going to help us understand what you need and what you would like to see our conference be. Also, too, we're going to have lunch right down here in a few minutes. But upcoming, we have one more panel discussion. We'll be talking about tools for success while attending school and pursuing your career. That will start exactly at 12:45. So we're going to break for like half an hour or less for lunch. And then we're going to have the 2023 Community Service Award. Will you be that person? Will you? So join us and be with us. We'll be finished almost. But give yourselves another hand of applause for being here today. Thank you. Take a break right now. We'll see you in a few. Welcome back to our 13th Community Prison Awareness Prevention Gathering. Give yourself a hand for coming today. You could have been any other place if you decided to be here, and we appreciate it, and we thank you for being here today. It's been some awesome conversations today. I'm just so excited. I can't wait to go back home and just relive this and go back and think about all of the food that I received today from my mind, you know. So again, we always at the end of the program, we're going to have our last presentation, panel discussion, and then we'll have the 2023 Community Service Awards. Again, we thank you, and I'll turn it back over to our moderator who's been doing a marvelous job. Let's give her a hand of applause. Tara Hall.
So welcome back. Before we get started with our panel discussion, I want to invite Anderson Curtis to the podium. He is a senior policy organizer from the American Civil Liberties Union of Connecticut.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank Winston, Shiloh Baptist. My name is Anderson Curtis. I stand before you today 16 years being discharged from Rogowski Prison. August 17, 2007, I was discharged from Rogowski. I met Winston and some other people who came in and mentored me in my last 6 months there. So for over 20 years, 6 times I went in and out of Connecticut's prisons and jails due to incarceration, addiction, homelessness. Today, my journey, my faith journey has taken me to places I never thought I would be. So I stand before you today. For the past 5 years, I've worked at the American Civil Liberties Union of Connecticut, passing policies at the Capitol, dealing with people living with a criminal record. I wear a shirt that says people, not prison. How many people come up to me and ask me what that means? And I talk about the disparities in our state. You know, there's 2 Connecticut's. There's a Connecticut where everything is fine and roses, there's always toilet paper and food in the refrigerator. And then there's another Connecticut, right? Where the disparity is. Like where people pay more than 30% for their wages to their rent. Where people of color are shut out of even basic foods. They live in a food desert. Where your health is determined by your zip code. Where your life expectancy is determined by your zip code. Right? And so, you know, we get a lot of data. We pass prosecutor accountability that shows the 4 major cities have the most violent crimes, but they also have the most heaviest police presence, right? And so we are at the Capitol talking to people, not just people who are formerly incarcerated, people who are justice impacted, because the DOC budget is the 3rd largest item in the state of Connecticut. And we talk to people, are you really comfortable funding a system that harms black and brown people? And it's a broken system, turning out broken people continuously year after year who have to recidivate because they have no access to housing, no access to jobs. Right? Is that really something that you want to do? And so when you frame that like that, people who may not even thought about incarceration take another look. So I'm so grateful today to have been invited to New London, to come out here. Rep. Nolan always stands up for us. He is a man of justice, honor, and integrity. Young man talked about purpose earlier. I heard another question asked about how do you not compromise? You know what I mean? And those things are real questions because guess what? The political will in that building is not always for the right thing. You know, and so standing up with integrity, standing up with your faith takes not just prayer and meditation, but the ability to see other people, to see support. And so greetings like this, events like this are very, very important for communities, and the ACLU would like to come back to New London, not just to register people to vote, because voting matters, but guess what? Everyone in this seat matters, right? Because there's a thing about being at a table. It's not just good to be at the table, because we have a saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. But we now work to bring other chairs to that table, other voices to that table, right? Because we want to tie your voice, your experience to your vote, but more importantly, you could be heard. The state of Connecticut has a public hearing where people can go and give 3 minutes of testimony. Anyone in the state. That is the people's house. We invite you to come out there and to be heard and to have your voices lifted up, your experience lifted up, access to power, talk to the change makers, and make a difference. So again, I'm so grateful to be here today, and power to the people.
So thank you. That was a great kickoff to our last panel discussion, which is focused on tools for success while attending school and pursuing a career. And as I opened up the former 2 panels with a quote, I'm going to do the same here with our last panel. And this quote is by Les Brown. He says, "To be successful, you must be willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have." So I want to introduce our panel to you. Our first panel member is Otis Burton. He is born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut, and currently resides in Norwich. He works with his family business called T-Shirt World, located in Crystal Mall. He has aspirations to become a community social worker and working with the police. He aspires to be an author. He is an aspiring author, with the goal to self-publish his book called Power, Love, Shalom, and Devotions. Our second panelist is Kevin Booker Jr., who was the founder and CEO of Booker Empowerment LLC, established in 2007, specializing in leading training workshops around topics of leadership development, climate, culture, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. He has been an educator for over 20 years, teaching high school and college level classes. Mr. Booker is a training facilitator with the Anti-Defamation League and a full-time visiting professor at Mitchell College. He has facilitated a wide range of community conversations across the country on social issues. Mr. Booker is a former city councilor for the City of New London, where he oversaw public safety. He serves on the board of directors of the Anti-Defamation League in Connecticut, the Isaac School for the Arts and Communication, Charter School Board of Directors in New London, Hartford Job Corps Academy Outreach Board, in Hartford, Connecticut. School and State Finance Advisory Council and New London Community Meal Center Board of Directors. Currently, Mr. Booker is a New London Parking Authority Commissioner. He is also an author and co-authoring the book entitled Emerging Men, Transformational Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Purpose. His children's book will be released later this year. He is the founder of Men of Color Hike CT, an organization that promotes and encourages building brotherhood through nature. He is currently pursuing a doctorate in education and higher education at Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island, which he will complete in May of 2025. The motto he lives by is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Welcome to the panel. Our next presenter is Dr. Keith A. Carter. Dr. Carter is the Director of Advanced Manufacturing, CT, State Middlesex, and Adjunct Professor of Psychology at the University of New Haven. He is the CEO and founder of Brother to Brother Life Coaching, Mentoring, and Educational Development, CEO and founder of Holistic Mentoring and Development, and co-CEO and co-founder of Inspire Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Belonging, and a founding member of many mentors. He served our nation honorably for 23 years in the U.S. Navy, a career highlighted by expertise in organizational leadership and development, project management, counseling, safety, and security management program coordination. Dr. Carter's accomplishments include a Naval Commendation Medal and 4 Naval Achievement Medals for his work in education and training. He also earned the Covenant Naval Master Training Specialist designation. His work as an educational psychologist focuses on Black males in the STEM careers. His focus is increasing in the STEM career fields through the development of social capital, minority mentoring, and enrichment programs. Dr. Carter's work emphasizes the importance of creating diverse learning environments that create equality for everyone. Dr. Carter is a certified academic performance coach, certified career coach, motivational speaker, and inspirational leader. He is a social change agent fighting for equity and diversity in STEM careers. Thank you, and welcome to the panel. All right, so as we open up the panel, we are, we're living in a hybrid and virtual world, and people look at success differently. So the first question I have for all of our panel members is, what is your definition of success?
When I look at success, I don't look at my personal success, because I don't feel successful until I go back and bring somebody else towards their success.
Come on, right now.
And what I mean by that is, I can say I'm a doctor all day, but am I successful? Did I go back to my community and pull somebody up to my level and made sure they was on their way to doing the same thing? That's how you success. Thank you.
Just a quick little background. So I was incarcerated from the age of 17 until now. I'm 26 years old. I just came home Thursday of last week. So success to me is putting in the work. So nowadays we live in a society, in a community of instant gratification. Everybody wants this desired result, but don't want to put in the work. And it doesn't work like that. It's fantasy. You look on social media and you see overnight success, but you don't know what those people have been through or what they've done in sacrifice to get to the places they are. So it's like, you have to know what your sacrifices are and what you need to do in order to get where you need to go. So it's like, you can't just love the end result, you have to love the process as well. My success is coming from a program called the True Program and doing exactly what I said I was going to do. So me shining light on that program, which is a program for 18-year-olds to 25-year-old young men who need help to develop their mental state. So it's revolved around therapy, and they have sub-programs that are foundational to changing the way young men think, especially from the inner city communities. So, you know, just putting your best foot forward at all times and me keeping God first, that's what success looks like for me.
When we think about success, you know, I think about the blessing of waking up every day. Because it's a blessing to wake up and be even in this space and in this room with you all today. Because not all of us are given that chance. Not all of us are given a chance to be in these spaces. Not all of us are given a chance to be able to navigate on a daily basis and walk out this door, as Otis so eloquently just said about his time serving. And when I think of success, I think about what Dr. Carter just said. You know, being able to empower people within our own communities. And we have to bring it back to what our ancestors did. And we can't forget how successful they were in order for us to be in this room today. And in today's society, when we talk about hybrid and virtual learning, I think about a quote by Kenneth Cougar. He said, "The past 2 decades have been as revolutionary as when early man and woman harnessed fire." Because when I look at this device here, this device that every single one of us in this room are carrying right now, this particular device allows us to have access to things around us that we typically wouldn't have. But the reality is that not everyone has access. And when we think about not everyone having access, we can't be at a point yet where we are at a point we are happy to be in the place where we are today, because we still have a lot more work to do. So as we move forward in this discussion about success, as we move forward in this discussion as to where we are in our society, we have to also reflect and take a moment every day, every single day, to reflect on how we can improve our society. Because we're never at that point of success. I always think about my grandparents, my great-grandparents. Every day they would say, "I'm blessed. I'm blessed." But I'm blessed. And what they meant by the blessing is that I'm blessed to be able to get up in that morning and be able to empower my people. I'm blessed to be able to connect with another human being. I'm blessed to be able to harness my voice and be able to send my message and convey my message to others to empower them and make sure that I'm sending out that positive energy. So that's what success means to me on that level. Even in this hybrid community, I'm blessed to be able to send my message
throughout the world. So thank you.
So I want to touch on something that you just mentioned, which kind of goes into the next part of the conversation about navigating spaces. And I just take notice that we have 3 black males in front of the space. And there's a lot to be said about what it takes to navigate spaces as a person of color. And I just want to ask the question of, within your definition of success, how have you been able to navigate different spaces?
With me, like I said, with the question I asked State Rep Nolan earlier about how he adapts. Like adapting is, for me, is adapting enough to survive rather than to the point where I'm compromising my principles, morals, and values. And even with the principles, morals, and values, a lot of us, we grow up with these learned principles, morals, and values that we don't necessarily agree with now. So it's like, why are we still holding on to these things when we don't need them? They may have served us then, but they don't serve us now. So it's like, you take a step back and you ask yourself, how much of me is me? So it's all about like unlearning some behaviors and breaking the generational curses and just getting a sense of self, who you are. It's hard. Adversity is for everyone. You either, life consists of you going through adversity, getting out of it, or preparing to go into it. So you just have to keep that in mind, and like I continue to say till my face is blue, God is everything to me. So I continue to put God first, and it makes it easier to go through those adverse seasons. But just know when it's time for you to reap your harvest, it'll be worth the while.
In the state of Connecticut, there are 169 towns. Out of the 169 towns, 153 are predominantly white. As you talked about, how do you navigate? 16 towns in the state of Connecticut where people of color are concentrated. Now, I don't have a lot of time up here to talk about the history as to why that exists within this state of Connecticut that we call one of the most liberal states. But that's a fallacy on so many levels, as we all know in this room. Because I'm going to say those stats again so it sinks within your brain here. 169 towns. 153 towns are predominantly white. 16 towns in the state of Connecticut are where people of color are concentrated. And we all can think of those towns right now in our heads where people of color are concentrated in the state of Connecticut. So your question that you asked, Tara, is how do we as black men navigate in these spaces on a daily basis? The other day, I made a phone call, and we have to code switch, because you're code switching through a lot of different spaces all the time. Hello, how are you doing today? This is Kevin Booker Jr. How may I help you? So I'm actually going into a facility, an organization. This person's never met me. And then they were like, oh, I say, hi, my name is Kevin Booker. They were like, oh, I didn't think it was, they didn't want to say it, but they were like, is Kevin Booker? I was like, yes, my name is Kevin Booker, you know, nice to meet you. Oh, you were so formal on the call. Formal? I am a professional. Like, but that was a microaggression. It was the ideas of what someone think of a person of color because of television, because of movies, and those depictions. So that leads me to navigating through these spaces. Why do I wear a tie and a suit every day? Because when I look at Malcolm, Medgar, Martin, and they were civil rights leaders. That's some of the things, that was their uniform that they wore every day to combat during the civil rights era. This is a post-civil rights era, but we're still dealing with segregated systems today. And I'm consciously aware of that when I go through these towns that I'm able to navigate through on a daily basis, that people may not have come in contact with someone who looks like me. So when I'm in these spaces, I'm conscious enough that I have to make sure that I'm able to open up doors for other individuals as well from other groups. So I know I'm still doing the same work that they did 50 years ago. And I'm going to also groom others along the way so when I'm gone, they can continue doing the work as well. So that's what it's like for me to navigate through these spaces on a daily basis in the state of Connecticut, one of the most segregated states in the country. Thank you.
Navigate. You know, I always tell my students, I have this little game I play the first day we meet. And I pass a piece of paper around, small piece of paper, and I tell them to write their guilty pleasure on that paper. Tell me something about you nobody could guess, right? So we take that paper and we fold it up 4 times, drop it into a box, and I let somebody come up and pick. And I say, guess who it is, right? And when they guess, I don't just say guess. Tell me why you guessed who that, why you chose that person. Why? And when you talk about navigating, it's when you walk in a room and people look at you every day and they see you, yet they don't know you. And they already judged you. I think when you talk about being a black male in a space and navigating, you know, I do it every day. I walk in a space, I'm Dr. Carter. And they just look at me. Oh, you Dr. Carter? Yeah, I'm Dr. Carter. You know, I walk in a space, give advice. They look at me, right? And I don't say nothing. I just get quiet. You know, and I wait for a response. Because sometimes I'm the only one in that space. And you know the funny thing about it? I'm the only one with a title, doctor. And then the bad thing about it is I'm the only one with a title, Dr. PhD, which means I did my work. I put the time in, right? So they sit there and they're looking, right? So how do you navigate? You know what? When you walk into space, you got to walk in there like you own it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you got to walk in there and let them know, hey, I belong here just as much as you do. And guess what? I got more credentials than you.
Come on.
So, hey, we're sitting here together, equal. And that's how I navigate. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So like, men are, or they should be, the cornerstone of the community, as should women be the backbone to help them lead the charge.
Come on, sir.
Your character is always on display, and Jay-Z said something before. He was saying, what did he say? My thoughts are losing me. It's best to see somebody, it's easy to see somebody when they're looking. I forgot what he said, I'm sorry.
You know what you said.
When somebody's watching you, it's easy to do good. So the test is when they're not around. What are you still doing? And that's what we need to be, because as the conversation was earlier, kids are watching and they're sponges. So we have to lead by example at all times. No, we're not perfect, but that shouldn't give us the excuse to just say, you know what, I'm human, I'm just gonna do human stuff. I'm just gonna be imperfect and not strive to be the best I can be. And I think it's vital for us to teach each other. And if the youth are our future, then allow us to help us get there. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've just talked about navigating spaces. So with that being said, what are some tips and skills needed for today's student to become successful as they enter the workforce? I know you mentioned mentorship as one component. So Dr. Carter, if you could speak on that first.
So when I advise students, right? One of the things, I work with a lot of black male students. That's my research. So one of the things, the first thing I talk to them about what we just said, how do you enter the space? I know from what I do my research, I research black males in the STEMs, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Most of them trying to become engineers, doctors, biomedical research scientists, dentists, pharmacists. The first thing I tell them, when you go in that space, you're going to deal with what's called imposter syndrome. So be ready. You're going to be the first one. You're going to walk in that room, and I use the words of one of the young men that was a part of my research. He said, I walk in the classroom, and the teacher look at me. I know just by that stare that they don't want me there.
Yeah, yeah. Come on.
He said, then I look around for us, and there's nobody there. So I choose a seat. Where? In the front. Right? And he said, I sat in the front for a reason. And he said, I sat there because I want them to know I belong there.
Yeah.
And I think when we're talking to students, we got to let them know, you belong there just as well as everybody else. Don't be afraid to sit there. You know, I told a student once years ago, he said, man, Mr. Carter, I'm the only one in the classroom. And I feel like I'm not learning nothing. I said, you know why you're not learning nothing? Because you're smarter than everybody in there. And he looked at me, he said, what do you mean by that? I said, when you go back after lunch, I want you to raise your hand. Raise your hand. And he said, yeah? I said, ask one question and watch what happened the rest of the evening. I said, they're waiting for you to raise your hand because they want to be smarter than you. But if you don't raise your hand, guess what? You're not going to learn nothing about electronics. You're not going to learn that. Raise your hand. He raised his hand. He came back, he said, I raised my hand. Guess what happened? They retaught the 2 days prior to the class. I said, why? He said, because after I raised my hand, everybody else raised their hand. The thing is, when I talk to students, I tell them, you belong there. And we have to teach our kids that they belong in that space. They don't have to change majors. You know, when somebody says, oh, maybe social work would be good for you. I'm a social worker, so I got nothing against social work. I just use it as an example. If I want to be an engineer, why are you telling me to be a social worker? Right? Why are you telling me to be a teacher? That's not what I come here for. So when you walk in there saying that when I leave, I'm taking what I come here for. And I'm leaving with what I come here for. Thank you.
Same question for the rest of the panel.
Thank you very much, Sarah. First of all, before I even, I want to thank Winston Taylor for putting together this program. Let's get a little round of applause. Yes. Thank you so much for all your great work. I think about the late Maya Angelou when I think of this question. She said, people will forget what you said.
Yeah.
People will forget what you did, but people will never, ever forget how you made them feel.
Yes.
I have been a teacher for 20 plus years. I love teaching. I will be teaching until the day I die. Okay? I'm going to say that again. I will be teaching until the day I die. I love teaching. I've taught high school, middle school, juvenile criminal justice system, prison system, 4-year college, 2-year college, private college. I love teaching. I teach year-round. That's how much I love it. But when I think about the workforce, and I think about the whole idea of what it takes to be a successful student entering the workforce, what it takes to be a successful student, first of all, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the motto I live by when I quote. Because you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and be willing to grow. You have to have a growth mindset. Very important. Be reflective and curious and ask questions. When you don't know something, ask questions. I'm still learning. My mentor, who's 95, is still learning and growing. We're always going to grow. You have to have a curious mindset. And then the other thing I would share too is be ahead of the curve. Read and be aware of how the world is changing around you. Because positions now that are really top positions in the next 3 to 5 years, those positions will be obsolete. And you have to be ahead of the curve. For example, we live in a society now where we have artificial intelligence. Chat GPT, 5, 6, 7, by the end of the year, probably Chat GPT 10. Okay, because it's growing rapidly, fast. My brother is a truck driver. He's been a truck driver now 20 plus years. And I remember my mom sat us down, gave us the same spiel, my mother and father, the same spiel they gave to all my siblings, okay? You go to college, you go to high school, you get a trade, come a little closer, or you get out my house, right? Right? Those are the options. But the point that I'm making is that my brother decided 20 years ago to go in to become a truck driver. Now you fast forward it to 5 years from now, in Pittsburgh right now as we're talking, they have automated trucks that are driving around the city of Pittsburgh. Now that's just not to like, oh, we're just experimenting, we just want to see what's going to happen here with these trucks and everything, you know. No, it's a business. So in the next 3 to 5 years, trucks, majority of a lot of trucks on the highways that we see will be automated. So what does that mean for someone who is working on their education now? I would tell my students, if they want to go into trades, you know, maybe you should think about going into programming. Who is actually going to program those trucks to run? Thinking about the workforce from a different lens. And another thing I would also leave is the job market will continue to change, and we need to learn and grow along with it to continue to be marketable and excel in the workforce. So you need to be ahead of the curve. And I would always recommend the same thing I wish someone would have told me when I was 18, 19, 20. But I had to learn as I got older, is make sure you have individuals where you want to go in life and a position or career that you're interested in. Find those mentors. People love talking about themselves. Interview them. Ask them questions. Sit down. Talk to them. And those are some of the tips that I would have for any student that is really interested in growing and developing themselves to become a better human being and to pursue a career in the workforce in the next 3 to 5 years. Thank you.
So what was always told to me was networking, making sure you put yourself out there, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And, you know, you never know if you're a conversation away from your dream coming true. And another thing would be doing your research. You have to do your homework. If you want to be in a specific field, you have to know the economics behind it. What it yields, when it's high, when it's low, when it's best to be in and when to be out. Maintaining growth mindset. That's hard because of the poverty mindset that's so prevalent in our communities right now. And as I was talking to panelist Booker a couple days ago, we tend to have this crab in a barrel mentality, and it's an issue, but the bigger issue is there being a barrel in the first place. So, like, when it comes to these skills that kids need to learn to be successful, it's just making sure that you understand what it is you want to do and put your best foot forward at all times, because as it says here on this paper, like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, life doesn't start until at the end of your comfort zone. That's it.
You know, we talked about mentoring and we talked about the barrel. One of the things I want to say is, we mentor. We got to be consistent.
Yeah.
We also need to look at educate. Educate. If our kids are going to survive, and I'm going to say the word survive, we need to educate. You talked about automated trucks, AI. I was at a conference in August, and we talked about being in a room. I was in the room, and they gave us this scenario. And they say, we want y'all to work through this. So I use the reverse thing, the camera, in the car, right? And the person I was working with, he said, why would you use that? I said, you're an engineer. I'm a psychologist. And I say, here's what I always tell people. Look to the future for what you want to do. And like he said, these trucks are coming around. So if you're going to give a young man advice, mentor them, hey, what's coming up in the world today?
Yes, sir.
Right? And so I took that scenario and I told the guy, if I was to do this, I would say, I'm going to tell somebody to train on how to repair those reverse cameras in 5 years. And he said, why? I said, like I said, you're an engineer. I'm a psychologist. How many people are trained to fix them today? He said, why would you train them today in this new technology? I said, that's the problem. So there's nobody today, and what about tomorrow? Who's going to fix it? He looked at me. He said, you got a point. So now we work through this thing, right? And in the end, he presented it. We was dead on point with training for the future. And what I use that scenario for is, when we look at our kids and they say, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a scientist, we got to look at how we educate them. We can't send them to a vocational high school thinking they're going to make it in the STEMs. They're going to be a doctor, dentist, biomedical research scientist. The curriculum is not designed for that. We as parents need to look at, if my child is being groomed or my child has a desire, first of all, we got to let them know that, yes, you can do this and you will do it, right? Then we set them in the path of mentors. I always use the 5 great people. Pick 5 great people. Model yourself after them. 5 great people. You may not even talk to these 5 great people, but study them. Look at what they're doing, and you go from there. And they don't have to be 5 great people from that field. They could be a nurturer. They could be a leader. They could be an educator. But you look at them, and you model that behavior, right? When you talk about education, you go to school, and don't let somebody tell you what curriculum you're going to take when you're in school. If I want to be a doctor, don't tell me to take some low-level math. I need a high-level math. I need chemistry. So when I do take my SATs, I pass. When I get ready to apply for the program, I'm accepted. When I'm in the program, I'm competitive. And I think when you look at planning for the future, we need to teach our kids, and not just the kids, but we need to come together as a community to help each other develop our youth and help them get to where they need to go.
Thank you. With everything that's been said based on your individual definitions of success, what it takes around mentorship, building community, I'm interested to know, based on even where I'm at today in my life, personal development is a huge component to getting to where I am at my life, and still, as you said, being a lifelong learner, continuing with that. What else would you add to the need and the benefits of personal development in order to be successful? Let's start with Otis.
So, if you don't invest in yourself, no one's going to invest in you. You have to put yourself out there. So me being here is a blessing. Like, this came up the other day, actually, just because of who I know. And I've put the footwork in myself to continue to establish myself and who I am to people of importance. So me being here is just a blessing. And this can be the same thing that goes on for other people around who maybe, like, I'm introverted, so this right here is new for me. But my experiences caused me to be introverted. But this is getting me back to who I initially was. Like, I like to be around people. I like to meet new faces and, you know, just interact with people. Like, I have a mentor, or multiple mentors, and they took me under their wing and introduced me to people where now I have opportunities to be a writer. I can establish a program under a nonprofit organization for kids. Like, I can follow through with my passions because of me putting myself out there.
Professor M.K. Asante Jr. once said, when you make an observation, you have an obligation. When you make an observation, you have an obligation. So as a human being navigating on this planet, you have an obligation to work on yourself. Because in order to empower others, in order to impart your positive energy, your energy on others, you have to reflect on yourself as a human being. And it has to go daily. You have to do it daily, because we're imperfect creatures. So by the fact that if you're conscious enough that you are aware that we are imperfect as human beings, you will reflect on the fact that I need to really develop myself. And it doesn't stop as you continue getting older. It's something that you do throughout your entire life. And you have to reflect on it so that you can get better. And you have to think about things that you want to still acquire and have that desire and that hunger. That fire has to still continue to burn. I give you a prime example. One of the people I've always admired in history is the late president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. What's beautiful about Nelson Mandela, even through all the trials and tribulations that he had to go through in his entire life, but he became president of South Africa when he was 76 years old. That means throughout his time, he had to really reflect, work on himself as a human being, also take the negative criticism because we're imperfect, and realize that there's some things I still need to work on and continually work on as well. So when it comes to self-reflection, self-development, that's a lifelong process. And I think the most important thing we have to continue doing is sit back sometimes and say to ourselves, I don't know it all. And I'm comfortable with not knowing it all. But you know what? If I don't know something, I'm going to go to someone and learn and grow. Because we are always lifelong learners. That's part of being that student. It never stops. And we have to continue pushing ourselves to grow and never make excuses. There's a quote that one of my students shared with me 15 years ago, and it goes like this: excuses, excuses, excuses. Excuses are the tools of the incompetent, which create monuments of nothingness. And those who specialize in the use of these tools seldom amount to anything. Let's not make excuses. Let's not say to ourselves, because we know some of our friends sometimes say, I'm okay, let the young ones do it. No, your time is not up. You still have to continue growing, developing, working on your self-development because people are watching you. And if you're working on your self-development, that will also encourage them and inspire them to continue working on themselves as well. Because that's what we do as human beings. We observe, we pay attention, and we're watching others along the way. And it encourages and motivates us in the process. Thank you.
I think for me, for self-development, every day I get up, I say to myself, boy, you look good. I walk past the mirror going in the bathroom, I say to myself, you look good. And then I come back and I say, boy, you so handsome, they can't mess with you today. Right? And I do that for a reason, because I'm getting up today to learn. And I'm going to bring something back to that same person I was talking to when I walked past that mirror and say, what did you learn today? Right? And who did you inspire? And that's the biggest thing for me. When I look at personal development, I look at this panel, right? I look at this room. We can pull educators. We can pull politicians. We can pull lawyers. We can pull doctors. Pull many different talents, right? And if we was to take those talents and say, each one of y'all, give me an ice cube, and I put it in this cup. The cup was empty when I started. I take that ice cube, I put it in the cup. Now what I do with that cup after that is what I feel will develop you. Am I going to put it in the freezer? If I put it in the freezer and say, I'm going to preserve this ice, what do I have? Ice. Right? But if I take that cup, that same cup, fill it with ice, no matter where in this room I put it, if I put it in the rafters in the corner, I put it in the middle, something's going to happen. I put it on the shelf on the wall, in the corner, in the middle, something's going to happen. On the floor, in the corner, in the middle, something's going to happen. What do you think is going to happen to that water, that ice? It's going to melt and turn to water. And that water is going to combine those several talents into what I would consider a community. Because now we have ice from different people, different talents combined as one, right? And when you look at that cup of water sitting in the middle of the room, you got to decide what you're going to do with it. How am I going to use these talents, right? I got a mentor. Somebody spoke of development. Somebody spoke of mentoring. How do I move from that? Oh, I got a whole cup. Do I take that cup and drink of it? Or do I walk past it? When we look at our kids in development, we look at how they come up. We got to look at that cup. Do we walk past it and let some janitor, some custodian, somebody that's cleaning the room after, pick that cup up and put it in the trash? Or do we take that cup and we drink it and we say, I'm going to take this community and I'm going to continue to build. I'm going to continue to be strong. And as I develop, I'm going to develop the young people around me. I look at personal development as the way we develop our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to, Sarah, just really quick on this comment.
Yeah, because we have a couple minutes
of development. There's an awesome Netflix special right now on Netflix. It's about the blue zones. All right, and I would highly recommend that you watch this particular documentary. All right, at first, I remember when I turned it on, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna watch about 15 minutes of this. It's like 4 episodes. No, I ended up watching like all 4 episodes, but I didn't watch them all at once, but I know, really bad, right? I know, binge watch a little bit, right? But the point that I'm making to this is that the blue zones are areas throughout the world where people live over 100. Centurions is what they call them, right? Now, what's fascinating and how this connects to the question of development is because everyone that they interview that's over 100 years of age, you ask them, what is it What's the extra spice? What allows you to really continue moving on? And what they all said was, it's knowing my purpose. It's also knowing that I don't know everything. Not allowing anything to get to me, but knowing what every day when I get up, I got something to really grow and something to really, that's going to inspire me to continue moving on. So that self-development is something that's innate. It has to continue being within you throughout your entire life. It pushes us, even when we don't feel like moving forward. So that, I just wanted to share that episode, that documentary. Please watch it if you get a chance. I would highly recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you for the resource. So we have a couple of minutes left. We want to open it up to questions for our panel. If anyone has any questions, please.
Are you sure? You want to do this? All right, this is Booker's fault. It is. You brought up the statistics and all that erudition, so I want to dovetail on that. Thank you, Kevin.
I'm ready for the fire.
All right, you ready? So I need everybody in this room, especially the three panelists, I need some help. So I go to prison every day. I've been doing it for 26 months. I'm the orthopedic surgeon for the state of Connecticut Department of Corrections. Little statistics, we have 10,000 plus inmates currently. They're all my patients. And 90% of them, and that's fact, so let me say it again, 90% will be returning to their communities. So we don't have a lot of folks in that are going to be lifers. We don't have a lot of folks in that are so mentally dysregulated that they can't come back. 90% will come back into our communities. So this panel is very aspirational. I need help. As I said, I wrote a paper to my bosses a year and a half ago. As I traveled to the 12 prisons and 2 jails, I noticed that the buildings are archaic. They are all fossil fuel heated. Virtually none of them are cooled. And all of them are on pieces of state-owned ground that are massive in scale and scope with very few trees. My suggestion was that we convert all of the campuses to solar, teach the prisoners how to install, maintain, and construct, i.e. advanced manufacturing, those solar panels to give the folks in prison who have great abilities to survive and learn, who right now are wasted, the opportunity to convert their own places into something that the globe needs, develop a skill, have that skill so they can actually return to communities with something positive. I think the word purpose has been used a number of times on your panel. And then give them something they can bring back to the communities as a skill set. Something to do, something to learn, something to fulfill a next life when they return to the community. I believe that would have a major effect on the recidivism rate. I believe that would have a huge effect on stimulating folks that are in prison. And it's possible to do that training in the metaverse with Oculus glasses that would be safe and secure. To this minute, I have received no response from any of my leaders. I think we need a bigger groundswell around not just that idea, but other ideas. Because, as I said, when I go conduct my clinics 5 days a week, I am seeing desperate people that want to do something so much more than they're being allowed to do right now. Any thoughts?
So Dr. Malice, what exactly is your question?
How do we do it? How do we get that groundswell? How do communities who are going to have to welcome these people back, these human beings back, get that kind of message to the folks that are supposed to be rehabilitated?
You want me to take that?
I got a piece of it. So it really it's on the community to be aggressive in the push for it. So you have to go to the governor. You're gonna get pushback, but don't give up at the first sign of resistance, because there's a lot of things that I heard of supposed to be given to us when I was in there, but never was fulfilled because of the lack of drive or the passion from the community. And that's why it's essential to vote, because if you vote, you get to determine what attorney general is put in place, what governors put in place, so they can make these changes. And the 90% of those guys that's coming home, 89% are going back because they don't have these resources.
So, just in essence of time, I appreciate the response, but what I do think, though, there could be some further conversation with panel members after, just to add to, because I know we have another segment coming up, so I hate to kind of cut it short. But I will.
We just thank Dr. Now for his question.
But thank you for your question. And as I said, it's definitely worth some more conversation with not just these panel members, but with some others that came today as well. So at this time, I'm going to turn the program back over to Winston for our Community Service Award.
Let's give Tara and the panelists. Release yourselves from the panel. Thank you again for your discussions and deep conversations. We had some of the, we had some of the, like I said, really courageous minds thinking. And again, this conversation is just the beginning. This is not the last conversation. I just want to remind you, before you leave today, we want you to fill out the evaluations and put your questions and put, like you were saying, all of these facilities, you know, why not use them as learning centers, you know, just like the urgent crisis mental health centers. Let's use these facilities by the state while they're sitting there. When I was going to Rogowski, that whole facility is closed down. What are we going to do with those facilities? You know, let's make them learning facilities and educate people so we can continue to move forward in our community. So give yourselves another round of applause.
Woo! Woo!
At this time, you know, we know that everybody in here does some type of community work, is making a difference, mentoring someone else, being there for someone, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you are a preacher, whether you're just a community person, a student. You always take an opportunity to learn and help your family, your loved ones. So we always just want to recognize people who have made a difference in our lives. We don't want to never forget, you know, our parents. We never want to forget our elders. We never want to forget just our community who are doing things every day. Sometimes they're heroes that no one even mentions. They may not make the papers. Unsung heroes. So without delay, I want to bring Reverend Stephanie Browder. She got a promotion minister, Reverend. She's another person in our community doing marvelous things, partners with me going into the prisons. But she is going to help us with the 2023 Community Service Award from the Shiloh Prison Ministry. And then we'll have a closing remarks. So she'll read the plaques first, and then she will, well, the bio, and then the plaque first. Okay. So, for each of the plaques, we have certificate of achievement. This certificate is proudly presented to, and then it has the person's name. The Shiloh Prison Ministry salutes you for your outstanding dedication and service to the community. Therefore, and whereby we present to you this day, October the 21st, 2023, a certificate of achievement for outstanding work signed by Winston Taylor, facilitator, and the Reverend Dr. Bishop Benjamin Keith Watts, Senior Pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church. So, thank you. Here comes Stephanie.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I do want us to make sure that we are focused because these unsung heroes really deserve this plaque, and even more so, whatever we can say about them because of their hard work. The first person recipient for the 2023 Community Prison Awareness and Prevention Gathering, I just want to say was unable to make it today, but he is definitely recognized. Richard Sanchez was incarcerated for over 10 years. Through his relationship with God, his life has been changed, and he has now made a successful transition to the community. He attributes his success to God opening doors for him. He began by working for a company that allowed him to make stable wages and promoted him from assistant manager to now manager. During that time, he became associated with his church, where he was called to be the associate pastor. After several years of serving in that capacity, he is now taking the call to become the pastor. For the past 3 to 4 years, he has served his church and community in the south side of Hartford by feeding God's people with physical and spiritual food for their mind, body, and souls. Many that are homeless can rely on Pastor Sanchez to abide by the scripture in Matthew 25, 35, and 37, "When I was hungry, you fed me." He finds great joy and peace in his life with the blessings of his wife and 2 children. None other than Pastor Richard Sanchez. We'd like to give congratulations to you. Our second recipient is a longtime resident of New London. She is a retired training and employment professional who has worked to improve the conditions of families through personal, professional, and volunteer work in her community. BB holds a bachelor's in general studies from Eastern Connecticut State University and has dedicated more than 30 years of service as lead instructor, director of training, and senior case manager at OIC of New London. As an instructor, she led hundreds of men and women in transition towards economic self-sufficiency. Her skilled ability to encourage those facing personal adversity afforded her the opportunity to connect with diverse populations, making a difference in the lives of adults seeking training and employment opportunities. She successfully oversaw training programs, student services, and community partnerships, resulting in significant contributions toward the expansion of the agency. Recognizing the importance of supporting church and community, BB serves on the Shiloh New London Trustee and Shiloh Development Corporation Board of Directors. She is actively involved with the SDC Generations Program, serving older, and the Shiloh Prison Ministry. Earlier years, she enjoyed working with the Debutante Scholarship Program. As a former Habitat for Humanity of Southeastern Connecticut board member, she served as chairman of the Partnership Committee, assisting and mentoring families selected to obtain affordable houses. BB is a longtime volunteer at the Guard Arts Center in New London and appreciates the opportunity to provide continuous service to her community. The life lessons learned from many of the special people she has served are among the most rewarding experiences that remain in her heart today. I'd like to present to you BB Norman.
Congratulations. Oh, girl. That's awesome. Good afternoon. Minister, State Representative Nolan talked about the president needing to have his teleprompter. So I have my phone, and I just jotted down a couple of notes as I was sitting back because I hadn't prepared anything. So it's been my honor to serve this community, and particularly the prison ministry. We've discussed politics today, using our voting power, education, and careers. and mental health. And there are folk out there who need our help, particularly those going in and out of the prison doors. Hopefully we'll be able to get back in there to provide more help in that area. The prison ministry reminds us of a few biblical principles: providing love to the unloved, practicing forgiveness, and demonstrating, as today, the need for providing services to our community. All of you have made a difference in this room, and Winston, your enthusiasm is contagious, and we thank you for keeping the prison ministry going, and I thank you for this honor.
Let's give her a hand. As mentioned, there are 3 recipients. We are now at the 3rd recipient, who is last and certainly not least. She has been a consistent and contributing member to the Community Prison Awareness and Prevention Gathering since its inception, while bringing in substantial contributions during its crucial first years. She is acting as our photographer today and often fits into many roles that she is asked to volunteer for. Debbie is a retiree with many years of experience within the nonprofit sector. She continues to utilize those as a volunteer to many organizations within Southeastern Connecticut, some to include, and certainly not all of them, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the New London Branch, and former NAACP New London Branch Secretary, the National Council of Negro Women of Southeastern Connecticut, Hempstead Street Historic District Neighborhood Association, Public Library of New London Friend Committee, City of New London Citizens Advisory Committee, Annual Appeal by Nonprofit Applicants, 800,000K, Health Education Center, board member. Debbie is a very involved and extremely dedicated member, and those are just to name a few that she is involved in within her New London community, as well as the community advocate and activist for many causes and nonprofit organizations. She has been a member of Shiloh for 37 years, and she takes special pride in her African, Black, Caribbean heritage. She is the proud mother of 3 adult children and a grandmother to 3 young granddaughters. I present Debbie Phillips. Congratulations.
Debbie!
I won't be long. 13 years now, prison ministry. I got involved initially because I had a son that was incarcerated, not once but twice. So that got me involved in this particular ministry, and 13 years later, I'm still part of it. My son, by the way, is doing very well. He's out. But I'm glad to see we have items that we started from day one. That banner, I managed to get a donation for, and these folders, I managed to get Sonalis to donate to. So for our first year, because they're very busy. But it's funny that when I was working full-time on a salary, I did less work than I am now as an unpaid volunteer. But I enjoy every minute of it, including my being a self-elected president of Mrs. Ratley's Baby Brothers fan club. I participated as my next-door neighbor's baby brother for about 4 years. Didn't find out his real name until he was hired by the city of New London. Wow. Okay. But I want to thank Winston for all he's done. I mean, he's amazing.
Amazing.
And he's been at this a lot longer than 13 years, by the way. But I love him to death. And thank you.
All right.
All right.
So on behalf of the committee for the community, Got you. Oh, we have one more person that we would like to recognize. I apologize. I want to pronounce her name correctly. Inata Peterson was born in Houston, Texas, and raised. Her mother, Angela Peterson, and her father, Demetrius Peterson. She has 5 siblings, and she is studying psychology. Her interests are basketball, as she earlier told us, writing books, and helping others. She wants to make a difference in the life. She wants to make a difference in her life by not proving to others that she is more than capable of succeeding, but by proving to herself that she has the ability to rise above the ordinary, to conquer the extraordinary.
No one can say that better than she can.
Ultimately, letting herself know that failure is not an option and that her past does not define her future. She wants to make a difference in others' lives by motivating, empowering, and inspiring those who have fallen victim to pain of all sorts, encouraging them to rise above failure and defeat, ultimately letting them know they too can turn their pain into purpose. And they have the ability to overcome all trials and stumbling blocks that this life may bring. She has already been presented to some. Now I will introduce her as the recipient of the 2023 Community Prison Awareness. And
I want to thank Mr. Taylor for inviting me out. We never met formally before, but he trusted me to come to his panel and deliver a message. I want to thank Mr. Booker for introducing me to so many great people. Dr. T, Mr. Braxton has so much knowledge and understanding and wisdom that I could learn from. And everyone else that reached out to me, gave me their business cards. I would love to get involved with y'all. And I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It's been great. It's been great.
Time together, and I just really appreciate all of your support over the years. There's so many people who've been here for the 13 years as we've been doing the conference. Like, for example, I don't like to say names, but Attorney Lonnie Braxton. Yes. So many of you all been here. Debbie Phillips, so many. So we just really want to thank you. Don't forget to fill out your evaluations. And I think Tara, our moderator, please support her books. We just thank everybody, the entire Shiloh family, the entire Mitchell College family. We want to just continue this work. On the program, you see my contact information. You can contact me, brotherwinston.com, or just call the church and join our prison ministry. We need a lot of more volunteers. So we just thank you. We want you to continue to have a great day and continue this dialogue, continue this work together. Don't forget, again, the evaluations. Now I'm going to have, it'll be at the door. Now I'm going to have a closing prayer by Stephanie Browder, my friend and my colleague. And we are going back into the prison. Actually, I've been approved again for this year, so I'm ready to go. I'm building up another team to go back into the prison. And again, we thank you. We thank Professor Giselle Turku. All the help. She's been helping me, working with me to get this all here today. So we'll close with prayer and have a great day and continue to do great things for yourselves. Thank you so much.
I'm quick and to the point, so if everybody could just be still, let's honor this moment. I'm going to let you take that picture, Deb. Deb. I want to close us out. Can you just hold on? I don't want you to mess your picture up.
Shake her name.
I know, right? I should have said Debbie, right? Sorry.
Award-winning Debbie.
Oh, that's it. Award-winning Debbie. Yes. All right, if we could just give sovereigns to God. Father, we thank you even now for this awesome opportunity that you have given the vision to the man of God known as Winston Taylor. We thank you for all of his energy. We thank you, Father, for all of his zealousness to want to please you first. Then God, we thank you for this pouring out into the community, those that showed up, those that had a desire to come but were unable. For every volunteer that was here, we ask a special blessing upon their life, God. And then for those who are still incarcerated, God, we do not forget them. We want to be a part of their lives in any way possible that you give us, Father, and that you let them know that you have never left them, nor will you forsake them. So God, as we leave this place and never from your presence, will you give us what we need in order to survive and to do what it is that you have called us to do? In Jesus' name we pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen. Have a great day. Thank you.